So my name is Brenda Lane. I grew up in New Harbor, and I have my mom with me, Marie Lane. I just wanted to talk with her a little bit today about where she grew up and her life before she moved to New Harbor and after she moved to New Harbor. So, Mom, where did you grow up?
You want to know where I was born?
Where were you born?
I was born in Medford, Massachusetts.
And then where did you go when you were born in Medford?
I
Where
was
did you go?
2 years old. My father and mother were divorced. I had a brother, 6 months old. And I was sent down to Idaho for my father's mother and father, my grandparents. And I was sent down there to wait until my father and mother got their lives straightened out, and then I was to be sent back. I was never sent back. I stayed there on Idaho and grew up with my grandparents, and I left the island when I was in September, and I turned 12. I was 11, and I turned 12 the following January, and I went in time to go to school for the school year.
Now, did Uncle Sonny go with you and stay with you that whole time?
He did.
He went to school there as well?
He went to school there as well. He was a year and a half younger than myself.
So you went to school on Idaho through what grade?
I went through sub-primary to, I think it was the 6th grade. I can't remember. It was the 6th grade that I went. And I went to the Wilmington School. They called it the Center School. And then I went to the junior high and then the high school.
So how was growing up on the island? It's kind of a remote place to grow up.
It was all I knew, and so I thought it was just a normal place to grow up. Everybody's related down there or knew each other. It's a small island around 14 miles around it, and it's 7 miles across it. And so there's my grandparents and all of his. My grandfather's sisters and brothers all lived there. They're all uncles, and we lived right there with them in the same village they lived in. And Grandpa was a lobsterman, and his father before him had been a lobsterman, and all my uncles, my great uncles, were lobstermen.
So what was the neighborhood? What was that little community that you grew up in?
It was all my uncles, and I had some cousins, second cousins, because my father's cousins had children, so they made them my second cousins, and that we all grew up and played together, and I went to school. School was 2 miles away from where we lived, so they used to send the old Model T Ford over and picked us all up, and we would get in. She'd pick us all the kids on this end of the island and take us over to the thoroughfare on the other end of the island to go to school. And it was just a one-room schoolhouse with a teacher that they hired to come down for the year. And in the summertime she'd leave, and then either she would come back or they'd get a new teacher for the following year. And the school bus was a Model A Ford, and they piled all us kids into it. And
yeah.
We'd wrap up in those old horsehair blankets in the wintertime and drive us over there. And she picked up 3, 4, 5, 7 kids.
Yeah.
We all piled into that old Model A Ford.
That's cool. So you grew up in a little area called Rich's Cove.
Rich's Cove, and there was a long hill. We had to walk up that hill. The bus driver would go down down further to pick up the people further. Then on the way back to my driveway, it was a big hill, and we would wait for the horn. That horn, I can't that horn. She'd blow that horn like if you knew what an old Model T Ford horn sounded like. We'd listen for that, and then we'd walk up the hill.
Yeah, that's
she'd
cool.
wait for us to walk up the hill. And at night, she'd bring us all back. We were the first ones to get out, and then she'd go on further down to take the rest of the kids.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's cool.
Oh.
So what it was your favorite memory on the island? You had there was a situation where you and Uncle Sonny and I think Scamp, Skook, and Olive were with you, and you went up to this rock house on a hill.
Oh, that was in World War II, and there were people were afraid of the Germans coming with their submarines, and there were rumblings of people, saying that there were submarines out there. Well, they thought there was one at Head Harbor, and we walked down to get our milk. We had to walk down about 2 miles, and my brother and I, and Olive, my cousins, and walked down to get, they had cows, and we went down to get milk. They had fresh milk, raw milk, fresh milk. And on the way down, there was a cottage called the Southers Cottage. So it was setting up on a big bluff. So as we were walking down, because we didn't walk down normally like kids are supposed to do, we would go down and peek around and peek. There were summer cottages, and so we would love to go peek in the windows and see what they had. This cottage sat up on a bluff, and Olive and Sonny went up the cottage, up that bluff. Well, I was always slow, and I mean, they would go fast. I was slow, and I was coming along behind them. And all of a sudden, they turned and they ran, and as they're running past me, my brother said to me, "You better, whoever's in that cottage is going to get you before he gets us, because we're ahead of you." I'm standing there looking at them, and they're running past me. What do you mean? There's somebody in that cottage. There was someone in there, so we went down to talk to Olive's father, who was
Morris.
Morris.
Yep.
And Morris was caretaker of those cottages, and he went up there and found out somebody had broken in. There were bloody bandages on the table. Somebody had broken into the cottage from the seaside, not from the water side, not from the road side. And that's what they had apparently peeked out the window at us. My brother and Olive were peeking in at them. But Sonny says they're going to catch you because we're way ahead of you now. And they went by me, and I'm thinking, I guess I
Better get going.
better. And there had been someone in there, and they had somewhere they found proof that there were Germans, that because I heard my grandfather saying that they were afraid about where they set their traps because that periscope would come up, and some people said they saw that periscope, and they were afraid to set their traps because they weren't sure how far away that submarine would be from their traps. So they stayed away from what they called Head Harbor down there.
Yeah.
So, and then after that, I read a book, and there is a book out called Here on the Island, and he wrote in there that there had been Germans walking the street. They walked along hoping nobody would notice them, but everybody didn't notice them because they were foreign looking. And so that's another way they knew that somebody had been down there, but there had been German submarines all along the waters around here, but they did pick that island.
Well, and back then, everybody knew everybody on the island, right?
Yes.
So if you saw someone strange,
That's right.
especially off season, you would know that there was something quite not right
Yeah,
there.
they were quite sure that that was and
Yeah.
there had been someone in that cottage, and whoever had been in there was hurt because they had
bandages.
and bloody bandages and things in there.
Yeah.
And they had broken in from the water side.
Right.
The side of the house that looked over the water.
Yeah.
We were in the back side of it.
Yeah. So what was the best thing about growing up on an island like that?
I guess I don't really know. I didn't know much about the mainland because the only time we ever went to the mainland when my grandmother took us to the dentist or to the eye doctor or to the doctor. Mm-hmm. And so I was just, we knew everyone there, everyone, and just, we knew everybody in school. We called our teacher. We knew our teacher well enough so that We were supposed to call her Miss Bray, but we always called her name was Christy Bray. We always called her Christy. She let us do that when our grandparents weren't around our parents. So I mean, to me right now, it was stability that I found down there because I had no stability back with my father and mother, and I had no, they just, just sent us down there because they apparently didn't want us. So
you told us a story about a judge that
Judge
came
Helen
down.
F. Stone,
Yep.
Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Yeah.
So did he used to come down summers there? Because I know there's a
he
great
owns
big population
Actually,
there.
the cottage is still there and is still called the Stone Cottage. And but he came down with his wife and his children, and stayed at that cottage and made himself. I mean, everybody knew him, and he would go clamming with the fishermen, go and talk to the fishermen, and they take him for rides in the boat, and every Sunday somebody would take their turn and having him in his. I don't know what the kids did, but he may have had a nanny take care of the kids, although Aunt Rose took care of them too. So
Yeah. Now Aunt Rose is your father's sister,
my
Grampy's
father's
sister. Yeah. So did you ever have him over for dinner?
We had
Jonah?
Yes.
What was that like?
He came over for dinner, and we had to be on our best behavior. And Sunday and I weren't the best kids. I mean, we were in trouble a lot of times. So, sitting at the table when me and Grandpa, we could reach across and get, a piece of bread or butter or whatever we wanted. But Grammy said, when you have company, you sit in your chair and you be quiet. You don't speak unless someone asks you a question. So we didn't like it because we used to get up on our knees on the chair and reach across as far as
Oh, the boarding house
the
reach?
boarding house reach. Grammy said there'll be no boarding house reach. And we couldn't talk because when the grown-ups were talking, kids kept quiet. So we had to be quiet. So I hated it when he came to dinner because we had to be. He wore a hat and he wore a suit all the time, and I do have a picture. If I can find it sometime, I will let you see it. And he wore boots up to his knees, and the pants legs kind of hung over the boots. And he would go clamming in that outfit. He'd have his suit and his
clamming boots.
his clamming bag. And he'd go clamming, and that's what he did. He always wore the suit and the hat.
Yeah.
And the hat was, like you said, a fedora hat.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. So when you were 12 or 11,
I was 11.
and then you moved off the island, and where did you go when you moved back off the island?
My grandfather and grandmother said, I think it's time. My father remarried and lived in Wilmington, Mass. And my grandmother, that was her son. My father was her son. He said she wrote to him and said, I think it's time you took care of your own kids. And your grandfather and I are getting too old to do it. So we went to Wilmington,
Mass.
to live with my father. My stepmother was Irish. Right over from Ireland, and I don't think she ever was. I don't think she ever got her citizenship. I think she was always had what they call a green card, and she didn't like Catholics, and she didn't want us there. So we didn't have a very good life there. And we went every summer. We would go down to Grammy's and Grandpa's and stay and Grandpa passed away, and then Grammy couldn't take us anymore down there, so we had to stay in Wilmington. Went to school. I was in my third year in my junior year of school, and my aunt wanted me to come down to Pemaquid because she had bought the Lawton house. Mm-hmm. And she wanted me to go down and work for her summers to work in the Lawton house. So I went down. That's where I met Junior.
So that's what brought you to New Harbor.
That's what brought me to New Harbor. I came down to work for her as a waitress and cleaning because she had 3 cottages, and and she served meals. So I went down to work for her, and I had been down there about a week when I was walking along down by Mr. Frank's store. You know where that is? You do know, Russie. I took you down there.
Yeah.
And
Was that the one at the foot of the hill?
Yeah.
On the right-hand side,
yeah.
yep.
And that corner, I came out of that corner, and Junior was in his father's truck. And he came out of that corner, and of course he came out of there, well, you knew how he drove.
Yeah.
Anyway.
180 on two wheels?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He came out of that corner and just about missed me. And he stopped, and that's, you know, and he wanted to know, he said, well, can I take you, the roller skating rink was down there, and he said, would you like to go down to the roller skating rink? And so I had to ask my aunt permission if I could go down, and she said I could, and so he came that afternoon and took me down to the roller skating rink
So that was your first date?
That was the first. We served supper. Aunt Rose served supper, so I served, I call it dinner. But he picked me up, and we went down to the roller skating rink. Kids were roller skating down there. So that was my first time with him, and after that it continued on.
Yeah. So when you came down that first summer, did you ever go back to Wilmington?
I went back late because Aunt Rose had my cousin, she had Tony, she had a baby, and she wanted me to stay there and help her at the Lawton House. So I stayed into the end of September. No, I stayed after Labor Day, a week after Labor Day. I was late getting back to Wilmington. I went back, I had been back about 3 days when we got a call from Aunt Rose that my grandmother had passed away. And so we had to go down and pick up Aunt Rose, and we all went to the island for the funeral. And so when I came back, I went back home. I stayed until Christmas. I came down to visit Junior at Christmas, and I refused to go back home. I did not go home. Left my brother. My brother had, that's another story. He'd gone to that Goodwill school in Hinckley, Maine. He was sent there because my father refused to have it. He was cruel to him. He was hateful to him. So Grammy took him out of my father's and sent him down there. Well, when Grandpa died, there was no more money to pay for him being down there, so he had to come home to my father's. So that's how he got back home. So, but I left. I left him there. I just left. I just refused to go back. I was a junior in school. I wanted to graduate, but I couldn't graduate under those circumstances. So I came down and stayed with Nanny and Pam and got married. And I think that was the first time I met you, Sandra. You were, I was 16 and you were 10.
Just a babe.
I've known you since you were 10 years old. You were down at Lady Sykes's.
So you and Dad got married
got married the
following January?
Yeah. I was down there at Christmas, and we got married the following in January 24th. Yeah. And,
Oh my gosh.
And that was just a day before your
my 17th,
17th birthday.
Yeah, still 16.
Yeah. And then you had Rosa
Rosa was born in 1950 in April.
when you were
18.
18.
I just turned 18.
18, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
we
yes,
used to-
Hershey bars. Hershey bars on Pemmican Point. That's what I
We used to
remember.
go to Pembroke Point. That summer that I was working down there after I met your father, we went down to Pembroke Point. We used to go down packing. And Junior would bring, he had a sweet tooth. He'd bring Hershey bars, and I loved Hershey bars. Of course, we sit there and eat Hershey bars.
I don't think that parking thing I was supposed to hear, but
No,
that's
well,
okay.
And I took a kitten. Nanny had a kitten, and I
Yeah.
took a kitten down with me because I love animals. And I took this kitten down. That kitten got out of the truck. Then he had a bunch of kittens, and I took one of the kittens, and they didn't want those kittens anyway. And it got out of the truck, and your father said, "Oh, let it go. We don't want it anyway. Let it go." And I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't get back in the truck. So he got
Without
out of
the
the
kitten?
truck and crawled underneath the kitten. So he got down on his stomach and crawled underneath the kitten.
That's the only way he was going to get you back in the truck.
That's right. I wouldn't get back in until he had me the kitten.
Oh, that's hysterical.
So, and he growled all the way home.
Oh, golly. So you had Rosa in 1950, and then
1950.
Bonnie came
In
after that.
in Valentine's Day of 1953.
Yeah.
And you came the day before Christmas in 1958.
Yeah. That had its own challenges because you weren't home on Christmas Eve to
That's
take care of things.
No, I wasn't home on Christmas Eve, and Junior he had the big job of not letting them know who Santa Claus was, but letting them know that Santa Claus had dropped toys out there and filled stockings, and they were in bed, asleep. And when he started to fill the stockings, they came out of they came out, all three of them, two of them come out of the bedroom and wanted to know what he was doing, and so he thought up this lie. Santa Claus was so busy tonight that he left everything on the doorstep and told me I had to fill these stockings. So they believed it.
Do you remember that?
Huh?
Do you remember that?
Oh, no, because I was
No,
I
she
was
was
in
the
the
one that was
hospital.
born.
Yeah.
She was
I
the-
hadn't gotten home from Miles yet. Oh, that's funny. So, so you lived on the Snowball Hill Road for a while when you and Dad first got married, right? You lived on the Snowball
Yes,
Hill
we
Road
did.
with.
We lived right where I can't tell you who lived there. I can't remember. It was right beside.
Did you live with Uncle Tinker for a while?
No, it was right
What,
beside Tinker's house. Tinker bought a house right beside ours.
Okay.
And I can't remember. Flo Wallace. Flo
Flo
Wallace
Wallace's
was her
house.
name. It was Flo Wallace's house.
Yep.
Sid Wallace was her husband.
Okay.
And he had passed away. They had sent her to a nursing home. And she had, the town had taken her house over. And it was John Hall that was selectman of the town at the time. And he, because the town now owned the house, rented it to us. We paid $9 a month rent.
Wow.
$9 a month.
Wow.
Tinker and Adley charged us $7 when we lived on the other side of the
Wow,
house.
that's crazy. Now, how long did you live there in that house before you moved to Huddle?
We lived at that house. Bonnie was 3 years old when we moved. We moved over there when Rosa was a year old. So that probably 4 years or 5 years in that house.
So then, how did you come about the house that you have now on Huddle Road?
Well, the house was too hard to heat. It was a big house, and we had to shut off the upstairs, and it was just too hard to heat.
Yeah.
The cellar, the only way you could get down cellar was to pull up a trap door in the kitchen floor, and
And get down
and
cellar
get
that
down
way.
cellar, and that always was full of water. There's no heat down there.
Yeah.
We had a pot burner. Remember those? What I say? Pot burner, and in the living room, and a oil stove out in the kitchen. It's the only way we kept warm. And Dad, Lyndon had a boat shop over there that he had built his boat in, and he wanted to get rid of it. So he sold it to us, and we got, there was a house mover, Boggs. I can't remember what the first initial, but it was Boggs. They came over and towed that house over. Uncle Walter Wallace had given us an acre of land for a wedding gift. And so we had that land just below his house. So we brought that over on that acre of land, and they put the boat shop there, and your father what do I want to say, divided it, petitioned it off.
Petitioned, yeah.
And put the wall boards up, and we moved into it.
Yeah. And that's where I came home too.
And that's where
Right, that
you
was
came
my
home
home,
to.
yeah.
And we moved into that place in May of 55.
Yep.
And that was the first, Rosa was 5 years old, and we moved over there in May, and she started school the following September.
Yep.
Sub-primary.
So you've lived in that house for,
I've been there since 55. So how many years is that from now? I think I've been there about 65 or 70 years in
years,
that
yeah.
house. 65? However,
Yeah,
I can't
get
do
that.
I can't think.
I could do the math real quick
70
here.
years, I think.
Yeah, almost 70. I was going to say 69. It's almost
Yeah,
70 years
I've been right there.
that you've
Yeah.
been in there. Yeah. You and Dad did all the work
Dad
inside
did
and
all the
finished
work
it.
in there,
Yeah.
and some of it he had hired it, done something, well, but most of it he did, and Russell helped in some things. If you remember, Russell came down and helped. But in that picture window, and did most of the stuff himself.
What was Dad's favorite saying when you look at that doesn't look quite right?
Well, I can't see it from Damascata.
Yeah.
You remember Sandra, you must remember that too. He'd make something, and if it didn't look right, you can't see it from Damascata.
Yeah. We get a lot of those can't see it from Damascatas in the house. Lots of them. Yeah.
Walter Wallace, he came from up country. I don't know where he came from. He and Maxine came from up in New Sharon. That's where they came from, New Sharon, Maine. And he used to be a woodsman. Worked in the woods. Remember years and years ago, you don't remember because you're too young, but years and years ago, they had people who worked in the woods cutting wood because everybody had a wood stove.
Yeah. Yep.
So everybody would cut wood, and that was a job. And Uncle Walt worked in the woods, and Aunt Maxine was a cook. They always had a cook in the bunkhouse. And she and not only her, but other women would get up and cook breakfast, lunch, and supper for the workers.
Yep.
One thumb and one finger because he had been in the service. He'd been in World War One, and he had somehow got injured and had blown off that part of his hand. He only had one finger and one thumb.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so he got out of the service, and he was then said to be a disabled vet. So he couldn't do much of anything with that, but he did haul traps. He did put traps out, and he hauled traps. He had his little dory.
He really, wow, it's cool.
Yeah, he that's what he did along with his pension.
Yeah.
So.
So what was yours and Dad's favorite thing to do?
Dad liked to travel.
Yeah.
He liked to go. We used to travel, take the camp out with the truck camp on, and why your mother is laughing because we travel with you and we travel with you and Russell. I think we wound up laughing the whole way down and all the way back, I think.
You used to go down and see Marge and Punk down there,
Wait.
right?
Well, Magic
Yeah.
went with us a few times, and that was a
Well, then they
laugh.
bought something down there.
Magic
bought-
bought a piece. No, they bought a trailer down there, a camper type thing that they left in the campground down there from year to year. They
Yeah.
pay rent on it in the summer and go down and live in it in the winter.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so.
that's cool.
Went with Jack and Isabel too?
No, we didn't go. Did you go down with Jack and Isabel?
Yeah, I think we all was down there. From
You
I
guys,
thought you had a
think-
whole big Maine group that went down together.
Well, there
Marie
was
and Jack
down.
was with us.
you and Isabel and Jack. I think you guys went down together, but there was John, Riley, and Marilyn down there, and there was a whole Maine crew.
Yes.
There was who else was down there.
Oh,
Johnny Hanna was down there. And then
Punt March.
Punt and
I
Madge.
can imagine down there, yeah.
But who else was? Oh, Jim and me, Leona Brackett were there, and we didn't. Junior went once to see them. I think that's was a whole. It was like an island. It was like New Harbor had gone to Florida.
Yeah.
Tell them about.
You and Russell slept in the back of your truck, and Junior and I slept in ours, but Junior didn't put his together. And it rained in the night. The mattress that we had in the back, I mean, we just had the back of the truck, just a cap thing on the back with a mattress in it, and Junior didn't seal it up tight enough,
Yeah.
and it rained, and we got up in the morning, and the mattress soaking, wringing wet, and I had all my clothes, I had to take them all out and hang. You weren't supposed to, in the campground, hang clothes on a clothesline, but I did, put up a clothesline. I had clothes hanging on the line down there, and Junior hauled a mattress out and got it outside, and remember that?
I think
Russell
think
sealed
we
his,
said-
but
I think we said.
oh, that's right too. We got into, I think it was South Carolina or something like that. We get down and we couldn't find a place to stay. You and Russell stayed up on the highway, and we went down into this place, and we had CB radios. And remember, I said something that wasn't supposed to be said over a CB radio. I can't remember what it was I said, and it wasn't supposed to be said over a CB radio. Sam, they decided they had to come down and find out what I was talking about. So I think Russell said, I don't think you're supposed to say that over a CB
Yeah.
Oops.
Oopsie. Oh, golly.
After
Absolutely.
we got out of there, we decided we had fun. While it was going on, we didn't.
Wasn't so much then,
So
but
much fun.
Yeah.
But no, we had good
Yeah,
times.
well,
Sounds like you had a good time.
so because you and Dad were big square dancers.
Yeah, we used to go square
For
dance.
that, yeah.
We used to go square dancing, and
Well, these people would invite us right in.
No, absolutely. The party group.
we used to go you and Russell went square dancing too. We used to go square dancing, and every Saturday night go wherever they happened to be, and we would know the caller. There would be a caller that would call the dances, and we had our favorite callers, so we would go wherever he was having the dance, and it could be anywhere. I mean, we've driven quite a long rides to go to South Portland, we've gone down Rockland, we've gone, a lot of places, Port Clyde, any place just to go to, we went down to Bucksport one time. There was a dance down there, we went down there, it took us hours to get down there, a couple hours to get down there. And my maiden name is Rich, and there was one part of the island where there was nothing but riches. My great-grandfather had like 9 children, and they all stayed there, so this end of the island, that's why it's called Riches Cove, named from them, because it was all riches that fished out of there. I'd love to have you guys go down. If you and Brenda, this summer, if you can get down there, just to see,
Great, yeah.
it's there's plenty of place to sleep. There's 2 bedrooms upstairs and 1 bedroom downstairs of one house, and the other house is 2 bedrooms. 2 bedrooms upstairs.
2 bedrooms upstairs.
Two
Yeah.
bedrooms up, which is,
Yeah.
So
Did you have a lot of jobs, and what was your favorite job?
Oh,
and
my
have you
favorite-
taught
My
it?
very favorite job
Yeah.
was working at King Raw with
Yeah.
BJ and Laurie.
Are we on?
You're on now.
Oh, sorry.
And I mean, I just met so many people that I didn't know their name, but I knew their faces. I knew them by sight, and everyone was just so. It was just a wonderful job, and he was a wonderful boss. He really was, and I was so scared when the first time that I went over there. It was right after Junior passed away, and I thought, I'll never be able to make a pizza. I mean, you roll out that dough. I did. I stayed up all night worrying about going in there and making a pizza. I was scared to death. And the first time that I got it, I did get it so that it was round. I got it so it was round. And then I put it on, somebody said, put it in your finger, twirl it round, you know. Landed right in the wastebasket. I did get it twirled, and all of a sudden it left my hand and right in the wastebasket. So I didn't do that again. I didn't tell BJ that either.
Yeah. Well, I think he knows now.
But anyway, no, that was and I loved that store. It was an old-fashioned store, and it was just, and everything was, it was just old-fashioned, and just, it was easy to work there. I loved working with the people that I mean, it was just great. I just loved it. So, and I worked for, I turned 90, turned 90 the following January, but I worked up until the end of October, and I was 89 years old. Is that? I liked it old, and the old doors, and I like stuff like that. You know, modern things don't seem to blend into the town. I just like it the way it used to be when the old people. Oh, really? Oh, I loved everybody over there. Everybody was so good, and I just loved it. I just loved that store. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I just hated to get old. I couldn't work there anymore. and I didn't mind. I mean, I worked like 7 in the morning. I didn't mind getting up early and being over there at 7 o'clock at all. And we worked until 2, but I stayed. If something had to be done, I didn't want to leave. And, you know, I had still things I had to do. I was supposed to be out of there at 2, but I didn't get it done at 2, so I stayed. So, to get it done, then went home after I finished up. But I just loved the cooler and fill in the cooler. I loved all of that stuff. Just
Tagging the deer.
no, no, I didn't like that.
What did you do when someone came in to tag a deer?
Well,
Yell BJ?
no, BJ said one time, I think it was, I had to go out and they told me to put, Rusty, you had to slit that leg and put that. There was no way I could do it. I just couldn't. I stood there and watched them do it. Well, then one day they came in and wanted him, and he said, "Oh, I trust you. You go out and do it." So I said, "Well, if he can do that, I can." So I never went out again to tag a deer. Well, if he can go ahead out and do it. I'll trust you. Go ahead and put your tag.
Yeah.
So after I saw him do it, I didn't go out again.
So what happened when you tried to, you and John went over to BJ and Lori's for dinner one night, you and John Walsh.
Yeah.
Went over to BJ and you said, I'm going to take the keys back and give it to him. What did he say?
He said, no. He says, you keep the key.
Yeah.
He says, you keep it.
Yeah.
So I still got the key.
Yeah. That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
No, they were good. He was a good. Actually, I've worked a lot of places in my life here in New Hampshire. When I came here, I've worked at the school, and I was teacher aide there. Well, you know that, Sandra. And I've worked at a lot of places, but that was my best job. I really loved that. Mm-hmm. Loved it.
They were always very good to you. If it snowed, they'd come pick you up, plow your driveway, fix your car, pump gas in your car.
Yeah, he would. I never knew how to pump gas. I did it once, and I wore more gas on my clothes, so I never again pumped gas. Always got somebody do it. Somebody would do it, and I always said, "BJ, would you pump my gas for me?" And he'd go and get the car, bring it up, pump the gas, and.
Yeah.
And be ready then when I was ready to go home. I'd just pay for it. But he, no, it was a good place to work. I really loved that job. I love working at school too. Those kids, those mentally challenged kids, loved those kids. Mm-hmm. I did have a good job there too.
We used to drive the Lighthouse school bus, the station wagon.
Yeah.
And pick the kids up and take them home at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, I picked up the two Michaels. The two.
Yes, Marie.
Michael Warren and Michael Kevin Poland.
Yes.
And Peggy
Okay.
Crockett,
Peggy.
And Skip Workman's
and Skip
son.
Workman's the little boy. He's not mentally challenged. He's deaf. He's blind. He's
Blind,
blind.
yeah.
He's blind, and I love that little kid. But I used to go over there and pick him up. Skip, Skip Workman used to bring him up. A little bit leery of him, but a little bit afraid. I mean, I'd say good morning, and he never spoke. He just opened the door and buckled his little boy in, and I'd drive off and thinking to myself, oh I guess I shouldn't have said good morning, so guess I won't say it again. But I did enjoy those kids. I did enjoy Michael and Marlene York.
Yep.
And,
Yeah, I remember Marlene.
She was a treasure, wasn't she?
Peggy.
Huh?
Peggy.
And Peggy Crockett. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
So one of the stories that we missed was the baby.
Yeah.
So
Oh, you didn't. Oh, you didn't
so
get.
I was wondering about the time that you went with Junior to the
They went square dancing.
square dancing.
Yeah, you and Dad were going out square
And you
dancing
saw
one Saturday
something
night.
in the road.
Oh,
Yeah.
I saw. I had taken Rosemary shopping, and I was late getting home, and Junior was having a fit. We're going to be late square dancing. We need to go. We're going square dancing. It happened to be a caller that we really liked. So I got ready to go, and we drove up, got to the corner by the store, and when he turned the corner to go left to go towards Damascotta, in the car lights, I saw a little baby in a bright blue pajamas, running down the road barefoot, and in blonde hair, little blonde kid. And I said, Junior, I did say a baby escaped. And he said, what are you talking about? I didn't see any baby. And I said, there's a baby running up the road. It escaped from somewhere. And he said, you didn't see any baby. We need to go to square dancing. And I said, stop the truck. That kid's going to get run over, because it was pitch dark, and cars coming from Damascotta would be going along there quite fast, and they'd hit him. So, you either stop this truck, or I'm opening the door and I'm getting out. And he said, you didn't see anything. You didn't see, I saw a baby, you stopped the truck. So he stopped it, backed around into a driveway, and when he backed around, his lights picked up this little kid. He said, oh my God, there is a kid. There is a kid out here running around. And he said, what's the matter with people? And he started yelling about, what's the matter with people who can't take care of their kids? The kids are out running out here all hours of the night in the nightgown.
And I can't get square dancing.
So I said, well, so he packed over on the other side of the road, and our lights picked up the baby. He was headed on New Harbor Hill. So I got out of the car, and the little kid, was turned around to look at the lights. So I got out of the truck, and here, baby. Yeah, I mean, what else could I say?
You didn't know his name.
I didn't know. Come here, baby. Come here. And he came running with his little arms up, because the lights were blinding him. He couldn't see who it was, because he knew. And I picked him up. Of course, the minute I picked him up, he found out it wasn't anybody he knew. So
Stranger danger.
So the nearest house, I took him to the nearest house, and went into the house, and there were some kids watching TV, and I said, does this little baby belong here? And they looked at him, and at that time, his father came down over the stairs and said, what are you doing with my baby? And I picked him up. He was out in the road. He said, he wasn't out. How did he get out in the road? And he came over and he grabbed that baby out of my arms.
Yeah.
And so he decided that they were going to go to the dance, and they decided that what had happened was that she had gone out of the house to go to New Harbor Hill to pick up the babysitter, and either hadn't latched the door, and he got out and went behind her, and as she drove off, he ran behind the car.
Oh.
And that's how he happened to be out there. I didn't see the car, but I saw him.
Yeah.
And so when I got out, of course Junior yelled yelled at Craig. Craig came out, and I said, Craig says, we won't be going to the dance tonight. We're not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's
tonight."
upsetting.
Scared the daylights right out of him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and should
Yeah.
I say that Junior bitched all the way down?
Might well. If you didn't say that, we'd be wondering where it was.
Well, he did. People don't take care of their kids. Their kids are out running all night long, out in the middle of the road. You get run over by a car. They got their nightgowns on. Nobody takes care of their kids. Oh my God.
Oh,
So,
dear.
I hate to end this.
I know, right?
Yeah, still going.
I don't know if it's very interesting, Rusty, but anyway, that's
Interesting.
It's very interesting.